Yeah, you
But
broke up a
Sorry, you
little
all
bit.
froze.
Yeah.
right. There's something to be said for putting in a good performance, but it not going your way versus putting in a bad performance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you put a good performance and it's a real battle, and you're going, end to end, toe to toe, and a mistake and a poor bit of defending lets us a sloppy goal in a minute or two before half time, everyone will be a bit pissed off because we've seen that 100 times before. But ultimately, if you've had 40 odd minutes of basically of bad play anyway, then I think that's a different measure.
I think Sarah's spot on as well. You've got to give it time. He's got to have time to embed a system and a style, and it really isn't going to happen after 2 Premiership games. And he's actually quite fortunate. He's got about 8 games on the bounce now, which are, as favourable as you could hope for.
I totally agree. And that's why I think, to some degree, I think that's why the button got pushed when it got pushed, because you've still got, half a dozen games or more, I think, before Christmas. How many games we got until Christmas? At least 6, I think.
Maybe more.
And the whole point, I suppose, is he's got, he's had a couple of games beforehand and a training window, another half a dozen games. They can really start to refine what the model looks like, who should stay, who should go, what January looks like, rather than waiting until January and then your season's a bit screwed. So I'm not suggesting that it should all be amazing on day one. I absolutely agree with what you're saying. And I think that's the reason why, if the Nuno project wasn't working out, they obviously had been talking to Conte and they pressed the button earlier than otherwise they might have. So I think, but I still feel that, a poor performance is a poor performance, and the fans are going to let them know what they think. But
yeah, I agree. I just think that
to motivate the team, then fine.
I just think that, I think, as like Sarah and Liv said, I think, 2 games or 3 games in total, and I worry that we have, that as fans we just become a bit entitled and suddenly think, well, let's just boo everything. We'll boo. We'll just boo because that's what we do. You know what I mean? And it's I don't think I worry that we'll get to a point that even where, like you've said, I think Lee, you said, like, if there's a good effort or whatever, and then but we're losing, then fair enough. But I think that you're thinking from a sensible person's perspective, whereas you start to get a few people that get into a trend and go, right, do you know what, we're losing, even that we might have fucking dominated that half and be losing, and I worry that we'll start to get in, it's like, well, we're losing, so we should boo, so we'll just start booing all the time, and then it becomes a thing rather than actually thinking, right, do you know what, that was dire, we really need to show our displeasure.
I must admit, I'm not in favour of booing, but I am in favour of booze.
Thank you,
of
Lee.
it pre-game.
I just think the players are obviously struggling. We keep saying, they should play for the shirt. It shouldn't matter who the manager is. But they don't. I mean, I think at the moment, and I don't think it's that toxic at the moment, but I think stepping out under Nuno, it must have been actually quite intimidating to wonder what the fans were going to throw at you. And 3 games into a new regime, I just don't think the players need it. We should be behind them, saying, you sort of got this, and regardless of whatever happens, like fans, players are humans, they're going to feel it.
Is there more, Sarah? Is there more to it? And I know you kind of mentioned the fans and the atmosphere, but if you look at like Conte at the end of the game, right? It was fantastic. He revelled in the victory and showed his pleasure and was going around hugging people, and Royal gave him a real big hug. Dyer, he loved it. Højbjerg loved it. Sanchez looked a little bit confused. Kane wasn't wholesome in this whole embrace thing. He just kind of took the embrace and whereas Kane of old would be in there backslapping and really kind of reveling in that whole kind of euphoria and joy of getting. So I think that not only is there I think there's still stuff within the squad that is still to play out. I think the squad is still divided. And I think that part of Conte's the biggest part of his job is actually to unite that squad around some of the key players that have been integral to our success in the past.
I agree, Steve. I actually 100% agree with that, actually. But also there will be some players that will have a good inkling that they're probably going to be shown the door in January. So that will figure somewhat, because he's trying to placate them, because he don't know exactly who is, but I'm sure agents are putting feelers out already. But I can see both sides of what you're saying, Steve, and also what you were sort of suggesting there as well, Simon, in that you partly you've got the legacy, right, of Mourinho and the sort of toxicity that carries across into now. So we are kind of like feeling the legacy of that, even though it's only 3 games in. So fans are easily to be disgruntled. Plus also the Levy out stuff, and that seems to still have not gone away much until there's some tangible proof that we are really going to invest in the side. So there's that. But equally, like Steve and Sarah were saying, we just have to understand this is a new phase. We've got to try and give it time. I know we're sick of hearing that, but you're not going to get a better manager in the world than Antonio Conte. So if you can't give him some time and understand that this is going to be a process which he'll try and make happen as quick as possible, then what the hell do you do? I mean, I don't understand where people's minds are on that one.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Sorry, let me make myself clear. I can't believe anybody after 3 games is Conte out. That's just I can't believe that. Or I was saying, this isn't working. That's just madness. I think it's just a gut reaction to just seeing something that was quite poor, and we were hoping for something a lot better, even if it was effort rather than end product, as it were. So I think that's just about frustration. I don't think that's a reflection on Antonio or
definitely. It was just emotion, wasn't it?
100%. I think everybody, if people were prepared to be, give Nuno a chance, everyone knows full well that between now and Christmas, it's all about bedding in. It's all about finding a system. It's all about working out who stays, who goes. To your point, you could see on, Doherty and Bergwijn's face is either they were just very unhappy not to get a look in and prove themselves to the manager, or they just know that they're dead rubbers basically, and they're just taking up space.
I think it's the former on that. I think we're so keen to create a story. Yeah. They must be off. they must know they're off, because look at their faces. They must know they're off. They just and that is a good thing. That's a good thing. If they're really pissed off that they didn't get any minutes, that's a good thing. But on the flip side, it's not a good thing, because it's a squad game, and you should be celebrating the victories for the squad as a squad, and you buy into that and embrace that. So, and that is all part of the whole team building that Conte was trying to show in front of to the masses. 100%. Look at us, we're a united squad, and they didn't buy into that.
Well, I mean, I'm no master politician, but even I know that if your new boss comes up to give you a fucking handshake and a pat on the back, you don't just basically turn your shoulder and walk away from him. That's typically not a good way to end your to get through your next appraisal. So
exactly. And you talk about, I mean, we spoke. It was like Lee, I think, spoke about Rodon earlier and said about he's been through a succession of managers and not figured, but Doherty is the same. He's been through a succession of managers, not figured, and one of them was his ex-manager at a club where he was massive. So if he couldn't figure under Nuno, he's got a cat in hell's chance of really making an impression now and again. And he must be pissed off, because again, this is a system that actually is supposed to play to his strengths. He famously is the only right back who's not actually a right back and only a right wing back. I can't play right. I can't play right back. I'm a right wing back. I mean, what the fuck is that about anyway? But anyway, this is a system that's set up for him, and he still doesn't get a look in. So maybe he is one destined for the door in January. let's hope so anyway.
Well, presumably he's going to start on Thursday, isn't he, against Mura? And as we rotate the squad.
I don't know if Conte's going to rotate the squad as much. I don't think so. He wants to win every fucking game, and it just seems to it's an opportunity for him to embed, another opportunity for him to embed his philosophy and and get his system, and give them, playing games is better than training. So if you want to improve your system and work on develop that, then do it in a game rather than in a training session. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a stronger team than we've seen in previous away games under Nuno in this competition.
Okay, yeah, you're probably right. Actually, I do get that impression. It's just hard to really get a handle on what Conte is trying to do at the moment. But
win.
I think that's it, isn't it? He just wants to win everything.
I think that's the attitude that he brings to the football club, and that's probably the one that's got to change the most. Is even on the training pitch, you're pissed off if your team loses in 5-a-side. And
exactly.
I'm all for a sore loser as long as they're pulling in the right direction for the team. Like, be pissed off he stayed on the bench, but get on the training pitch the next day and earn your shirt.
Yeah, no, definitely.
What was it Ferguson said once? Show me a good loser and I'll show you a loser.
Yeah, perfect expression.
Was it Ferguson who said that?
It might not have been, but I'm sure it was ascribed to him. But
it's a famous Google quote.
It sounds a bit like David Brent to me, but
yeah.
It does sound something that Ferguson would say. That it's quite good.
Probably.
Henceforth, it will be attributed to Lee Brown.
Yeah. So, Steve, were you at the game? Did you go?
Yeah, I was there. I was there. Yeah. It was good. So obviously I've moved seats this season. It's only the third time that I was sat in my seat, and for the first time since I've been there this season, I started hearing echoes, and this shows actually that the atmosphere in the ground, or the expectation of the crowd, was higher, I guess, in this game than the two games that I went to under Nuno. That I started to hear echoes of "sit down, will you fucking sit down, sit down." When people have stood up, anticipating something going to happen. Even when we were defending, people were stood up in anticipation.
I think they were. They were around me. Yeah.
And I mean, there's a guy. The guy that was making the noise was fucking massive, and we were in the back row, and he's massive, and he stood up, and he's going, "Will you sit down?" I'm thinking, you can see everything, mate. Why do you need people to sit down? But so it's good. It was good atmosphere though. Good.
It was good to be there. Yeah. I don't know what the gates were. What the gate size was? Was it the full crowd?
Well, I had an empty seat next to me, so it kind of been a full crowd.
Yeah. There were a few scattered around, I guess. But
unless you're Arsenal, unless.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Always every home game's a full capacity at the Emirates. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it's good weekend for us though. I mean, if you think it's probably one of the first weekends for quite a while where other teams around us have lost, and you think, God, right, don't fuck it up. Come on, we can claw back some points here, and and we actually didn't fuck it up. So I think that was quite
that was pleasing.
Novel. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. I think we actually managed to gain on the sides above us. We're one behind Arsenal, obviously, and I think it's 4 behind.
Arsenal are flying this season as well, by the way, and we're 1 point behind them. So
exactly.
On your, Andy, I guess you went to the game, right? But on your way there, were you surprised by the police presence?
What, the lack of it, or?
No, there were police all over the place. I mean, on the tube, on the tube up from like from